This whole body of work that I've been doing since starting in 2015 and extending up to the present day is all called Not Good But Well Behaved. And it looks at the defense mechanisms and strategies, kind of the little lies that we all tell ourselves or people we care about to avoid dealing with or confronting a more difficult or inconvenient truth about a situation. Across cultures were traditionally used to defend themselves. Gates, fences, houses, masks, and the rubber cord that you see coming through talks about the idea that none of these defense mechanisms are flawless. They all have kind of holes and parts where those emotions do come through. The honesty of a situation, the reality of a situation does always break through that. So the rubber cord is meant to be showing these kind of efforts to move past that barrier. On the inside of all the sculptures is painted red. It's kind of a representative trigger color. It stands for lots of kind of raw emotions, raw human emotions, anger, love, passion. And on the outside of the sculptures is this matte black, non-reflective surface meant to be very kind of dense and, kind of imposing. I think one of the great things about making a visual art is just the second you decide to exhibit it, you have to be open to the idea of people bringing their own ideas and kind of emotions to a piece. So that's totally fine. I don't expect all of the kind of conceptual backing behind a work and all the personal references for me to come through, but I do hope to get across some of the kind of underlying emotions or feeling when you look at a piece. I think it's the natural inclination to say, what does this mean? And think of it as an equation, where a lot of the times I try and ask people kind of, what does it mean to you? Do you, don't think of it as right or wrong. What does it make you think about? What do you think it is about? And oftentimes I think you'll find an in. I like to think that the works are layered and complex enough that there'll be an in for different people. I did a whole body of work that was looking at chess drawings, and so I was a competitive chess player, and it really shaped the way I look at problem solving, the way I look at the world, the way I think about my own goals, both career and personal, that I want to achieve, and my approach to doing that. This is the body of work I mentioned before, looking at language. And for me, chess really was, did this series of drawings that mapped out chess games. I kind of did some tests and figured out what length chess game made for the nicest picture in terms of how cluttered or how dense it was, how much negative space there was to how much positive. I grew up in Upper Manhattan on 92nd and 2nd, and then my family moved out to Queens in between 9th and 10th grade, out to Jamaica, Queens. And that's where my parents still live. Both of my parents are from Queens. And like I said earlier, I moved to Detroit at the beginning of 2016. The art worlds are really different. These cities operate in very different ways. And you can feel like you can get lost in New York. You're in your own little bubble. And I just feel engaged with the city in a different way here. I think that size sometimes leaves it feeling somewhat unmanageable, sometimes very impersonal, and sometimes not very supportive. You might have your own kind of small friend group or kind of professional network that's really supportive, but it can, I think, feel really easy to get lost. And one of the things I really noticed kind of off the bat in Detroit was how open and accepting and supportive the entire art world seemed here. I moved here, no one really knew me here. I knew a couple of people doing the residency at Red Bull, and people were, wanted to come by the studio, wanted you to come by their studio, told you about openings to go to, and I noticed that you always saw, people always made the effort to get out to one another's shows, promote their shows, and there was this very much kind of what felt like genuine happiness for other people's success that sometimes in New York, either you think whether or not jealousy is more involved or not, because the art world is a little bit more kind of hyper competitive in New York, but there was just this kind of this feeling of support here that was palpable and really attractive to me.